Nobody believed we were actually going to rock up together. Welcome back to the Opposition Podcast. I think it's number 19 after 8 months break. The setup is a little bit different since we broke up because 8 months ago when we had a hard breakup, Rukshan has refused to leave his house. That's why now I'm in charge of the technology. So if it is already a bit better. It's a bit smoother than when you ran things.
Well,
Rukshan, how you doing?
we've had months and months of getting this right, yeah. So
You
all
have
that
not left your
technological
house. What are you
advancements.
talking about? You have literally not left your house. Nobody believes you.
But look, guys, welcome back to the Opposition Podcast. It's been a long time, like Avi said, since we've done this podcast, and a lot of things have happened in between that time. No, there was not a hard breakup, but some people have speculated there has been problems between Avi and myself, but that is not the case. There's been different reasons that I've actually been missing from this space. But Avi, you've been pretty active, and most of my time's actually been spent setting up your studio. So I've been doing a type of slave labor from closing my studio to setting up your one for absolutely no payment whatsoever.
I thought we weren't going to talk about this online. It's shaming me. I feel hurt. How have things been? Because a lot of people do ask me. So I notice anytime you interact with me, people ask you, why are you still hanging out with Avi? And then when people don't see you on my stuff, they're going, what happened to Rukshan? Is he okay? it's a weird contrast. So for those interested,
Yeah, I mean,
how have you been?
I've been really good. I've just had a little bit of a break from a lot of the political commentary stuff that I've been doing over the last couple of years. Obviously, going out of the lockdowns and getting back to other work and, still doing the political stuff, you kind of don't get a chance to have a break, right? You kind of just flow into all these other things that you're doing. So I went pretty hard in terms of covering politics and a lot of issues around Australia. And, we traveled a few times overseas. We went to Davos, did the World Economic Forum. So many things happened in the last couple of years that it's been good to actually step back, refresh myself, watch from the sidelines, see how politics plays out, and just have a bit of a breather to have a new perspective on things, and also just rework my approach to doing some of the work that I'm doing in this space.
I'm managing the comments at the moment. I'm going to put.
Well, this is
I
great
love it.
because
I
before
never
I had
realized
I
you
had
guys
all
were
the
dating. A crazy pal.
all the tech stuff that I had to do before, all the technological stuff, but now it's in the hands of Benji and Avi. So if anything goes wrong, like we said before, you can blame Benji mostly, but also Avi. And
It's
how's your
way
new
smoother.
studio, man? Looks pretty good. Like I know all the work that it took to get it to that point, but you've been
I
using
was
it.
gonna
You've
say,
been
why
making.
you're acting surprised? You literally, you literally did every one of those slats behind me. I don't know why. No, I don't mind this. It's gonna take some getting used to because I remember in your studio I really just focused on the conversation and I let you look at the comments and let you kind of manage everything else. But now I'm gonna have to learn how to multitask because again, you refuse to leave your lounge room. How is it at home?
It's good at home. Like, obviously, setting up a space to do this kind of streams and content from home. It's different. I am mostly working from home now, so a lot of my studio stuff has been shut down temporarily, and so I've got a new space here at home, and I've hijacked the living room to make this happen in the temporary time. So, thanks to my wife, she's been very accommodating to let me take over the living room. So I will be coming to you from this couch. And no, it's not a casting couch or anything like this. It's just my chilled out setup that I'm going to be doing a lot of my videos from going forward.
I can see. I'm seeing now because it wasn't like that last time. 8 months ago, we're getting comments via X now. I think. Yeah.
Are the X comments coming through?
Yeah,
Wow, that's
yeah.
amazing.
Rami, Rami from Sydney. He's asked,
Yeah.
"Good to have you back, Rukshan. What's next for you?" I could probably answer that. I've got an upgrade in a studio. What is next for you, Rukshan?
Oh, look, I'm like I said, I'm kind of figured out what I want to do with this political stuff that I'm doing. So definitely, I want to keep focusing on issues in Australia, and keep covering this type of content. I've also, segued, or I don't know what the correct word is to this, gone off in a different path as well and started dabbling in some technological stuff as well, and following some other passions of mine more publicly, namely in the crypto space. So you might see me shilling crypto projects at some point, but not in that fashion. But this it's a very passionate interest of mine, and I'm glad that I can do it a bit more publicly now because it's just I've just had that time to spend on those type of passions that I used to have, but got caught up with all the drama that was happening in Australia during that crazy couple of years that we had during lockdowns.
You're doing the crypto stuff as you were working here, but the only way you got away with it was you promised me you're going to make me rich. Um,
100%, that was a deal, yeah.
so for the viewers that are joining us, and this is kind of a soft launch. We haven't brought any guests today because we thought we'll play with the technology, we'll see what's up, make sure that I can actually handle it, and then from next week we'll start having guests again. But I can see the comments, like I said, they're coming through YouTube as before, Facebook, but X, and we're going to work on Rumble. I don't know exactly how we're
Yeah,
going to make it all happen, but for now, I'd say get used to using something like X because I dare say not every week we're going to be on YouTube and Facebook just due to some of the people we plan to have on.
that's
Um,
right.
yeah, so if you don't have an X account, I don't know what you're doing because X is probably the best place to be at the moment if you're interested in politics at all because you're a little bit more free. You don't have to speak with code, which can be good, can be lately a little bit more confronting because you get to see what people really mean when they say stuff, especially when it's about me. But no, it is better because you get to see what people really think. So if you don't
Yeah,
have
I
an
mean
X account,
it's a town square, right? It's
it is.
a battlefield. It's a political battlefield of ideas, and despite some of the stuff that you see on X that might be questionable depending on your views and how you might be offended by it, it's actually good sometimes to air out these conversations. So I think X has been a blessing since Elon Musk, took the helm at X and just changed it completely. And you're seeing how much they're panicking all around the world. Governments, whether it's the EU sending letters to him before he has an interview with Donald Trump, just ridiculous things, just because of this platform that allows people like us to have a video like this streamed and discuss ideas. At the end of the day, it's fundamental to us as humans. So that because it happens online shouldn't be restricted by all these other shenanigans that we're seeing being imposed by governments and authorities to limit these type of conversations. So definitely I would get on X and Rumble as well, of course. That is also another great free speech platform.
Absolutely, and it's crazy to see. Even if you look recently at the protests in the UK, a lot of that it kind of happened via the grassroots, and some of the big accounts, like you look at, I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name, if this is being streamed on Facebook, but a British patriot that I happen to be good friends with, that's been the most consistent far right voice I've ever heard. Because as we've seen, the far right has kind of through the last year or so, we've managed to see where people really sit and the way they've just shifted their views based on their audience. But one person that's been really consistent, Tommy somebody, I just don't want to get you to lose your page. Um, but you seen him, he got cancelled from everything, from Facebook, Instagram, Meta, YouTube, and on a lot of these platforms, it's even illegal to say his name, but certainly show his face. And then Elon let him back on. Now he's hit 1 million followers this week. So you're talking about in a few months that he's joined, he's on 1 million followers because his natural ability is to talk to the average person in a really, simple, calm way. And it's
Mm.
it's it's amazing to see on X. And the wild thing is the people that deplatformed him back in the day. You're talking about 2019, 2020. A lot of these now, like, they've turned into full jihadi extremists that march every single week for Hamas, but also literally calling for genocide. They still are on all those platforms that they once, advocated for him to be and pushed for him to be kicked off, and now they're still free to post their hatred on there.
Well,
It's
it's obvious
wild.
definitely that yeah, it's obvious definitely that these platforms pick and choose because you have questionable world leaders and all types of authoritarian figures with all types of social media presences,
Yeah.
even for their shady governments, and it's allowed. But you talk about someone that's speaking up about certain things that are happening in their country. Yes, the ideas might offend people, it might be controversial, whatever it is, but for whatever reason, these platforms feel they have this thing that they have to do to get rid of this view from being shown to other people, and it's ridiculous. So it's great again that Elon Musk and X is allowing people to share these views, because at the end of the day, if let's say this individual's views are wrong, well, at least you can hear them and you can challenge them. And that's important because you don't want this stuff to go underground. You want it to be discussed in public, and it's important public discussions. And with the UK, I've been observing that, just watching what's been happening in that country, and it's crazy. Like, they will go up, arrest people for Facebook posts or something they've said on social media. They'll
Wild.
have these like speedy trials, and they'll make this public example of individuals. But that country is like a bit of a crap hole. I'm sorry if you're watching from the UK. There's all
Dude,
types of
they're
questions.
clearing out the jails. They're clearing out the
Yeah.
jails of
So
hardened criminals to make room for people that posted online or that watched some of the writing from the side. Some of them caught up. I saw the other day an autistic kid. Like, it's crazy what's going on there.
yeah, if you go back a couple of hundred years, like Australia obviously was a convict colony originally for the British. They would have, if they could do that today, I would not be surprised if they were shipping off people into distant continents. These people who are free speech advocates or talking about issues with immigration or things that are happening in their country. They would literally arrest them and ship them off to some country where they have no communications with anyone. Like, it's kind of going back to that. It's very kind of regressive manner that you're seeing around the West, and the UK seems to be really at the forefront of it, with countries like Canada and, of course, Australia being not that far behind.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see we have Anthony Albanese on X tuning into here. Um, Avi Amini
So,
is the best journalist in Australia. I love it. And on that, I'm seeing a notification exclusive from Sky. Maybe we'll hold on. We'll bring it on, Benji, in a second. I'll tell you when to jump onto the share screen, because let's just see. We just we can watch this as it happens. We can read it as it happens. Let's see what Sky News is reporting now about. I don't know if it is, and it's just coming through to my watch.
hey, this is good. We're doing live news coverage
Yeah,
now.
let's
That's pretty good.
Benji chuck the. Yeah, there we go. I love it. We can actually see scroll here. So, Labor MPs dismayed at Anthony Albanese's failure to reassure Australians that Hamas supporters are not being granted visas. It's become a wild story, this one. Have you been following it?
Look, bits and pieces of it. Obviously, in terms of national security, we've had lots of discussions around that over the last couple of months. We've had other issues to do with the immigration program, and certain types of individuals being detainees being led into the public who have criminal records and so on. So the government doesn't have the best track record. So when it comes to a discussion like this, sure, definitely people are going to be very unsure about how this is being handled. There has to be a balancing act here done as well, because Australia is a country that's traditionally been welcoming to people in these type of situations, and I think we still have a role to play there. But the questions around how it's being handled and the way that it's being pushed through and the manner that it's being pushed through, I think that's a fair discussion to have, and one that should be had out in the open. And I think credit to the opposition, credit to Pete Dutton for actually making it a point of discussion. I know people have criticized him for it, particularly people from the other side of the fence. But at the end of the day, we have to have these discussions, because border control, national security, regardless of what the issue is and what country people are coming from, has to be a priority for Australia, because at the end of the day, we have to ensure that our country is safe, and that our borders are secure, and that's very much a fundamental role of the federal government to ensure that happens, because individual Australians, of course, cannot, participate in that happening. It's up to the government to ensure that these things are being done in a way that protects this country and protects individual Australians as well from harm's way.
Well, I'd ask, how can you be sure? How can you, when you're not properly vetting them, and that's, it's not possible that they're properly vetting them on the ground in Gaza at the moment. And unlike any place in the world, it's got the highest percentage of terrorist supporters. 73%, I think, was the last poll of people that support Hamas. And what's interesting is when you look at those numbers, that's people that support Hamas. There are other terrorist organizations. It's not even counting the people that support the other terrorist organizations. So one, you can't vet them properly. There's no way you're vetting them properly. Two, we know it's a population that's got the highest amount of people that support terrorist organizations. Three, did you know, Rukshan, I only know this because I did the story on it this week, is Australia has granted approximately 3,000 visas to Gaza. Do you know how much the US, UK, and New Zealand combined granted in that same period since October 7?
Probably less.
How'd you know that? So 300 together. So we've taken 10 times.
We're generous. Yeah.
Mate,
I'm not opposed to that.
Where can that go wrong?
We're a generous country, and I think we've always kind of had this tradition of doing this, right? The issue here is, again, the procedural things around it, and if it was politically motivated, perhaps if it was done in a way to, calm people down, maybe in terms of the disharmony that we're seeing in the country in Australia, and some corners were cut. These are the questions that people are asking. I'm not 100% opposed to Australia helping people, disadvantaged people in war-torn situations. I think we have a amazing country, we have amazing resources, and we can step up to do it in a way that is beneficial to the world at large by helping individuals in these situations. But it has to be a balance. And for me personally, the problem is that the government, yes, they're putting a lot of effort into these type of programs, but then at the same time, Australians in Australia who are facing certain situations and certain trouble in their lives are not being looked into as well. So this balancing act is always one that's going to be under critical review by a lot of people, and that is where I find my disagreement with some of these practices from governments, where they put a lot of attention into certain situations and do things that they might not necessarily do for anyone else from other situations. But they're cutting corners. And a lot of people are rightly questioning whether it's very political and a bit of grandstanding by the Labor government.
I think it's compounding benefits for the Labor government. They're virtue signalling at this time, especially when they've had it tough because they speak out of both sides of their mouths. They're trying to appease both sides. But I think also it works out well for them. They get to import a voting base. Traditionally those communities vote Labor to much higher than Liberal, that's for sure. So it's a bit like what you see with the Democrats in the US, and we're coming up to that season at the moment. Right now is the Democratic National Congress, but it's the same kind of argument that's being made about legalizing, allowing, for example, illegal aliens or whatever they call them there to vote. It's the idea of empowering your potential voter base, or something that statistically is going to work to you. Look, statistically, if you bring in 10,000 Gazans, I'd say over 80% are your voting base. So it's going to work out well for you if you're Labor. No?
Yeah, I mean, they could also be voting Greens, because the Greens are maybe more aligned with some of these type of things.
I think the Greens are useful.
I mean, they're trying.
But I think the Greens are too, like, they're blatantly useful idiots to them, because if you think about it, they're like the queers for Palestine. You don't see any queers in Palestine. In fact, you often see leaders from within those communities calling to kick those groups out of their marches and that. They're not very well liked in the Middle East. Let's just say that. And that's what almost everything about the Greens would be hated in the Middle East. Almost everything. The only agenda that they support is their hate for Jews and their blind support of Hamas and the Palestinian cause. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing else. So once they get here, the useful idiot has kind of ran his course and he's done everything he can. The most, I guess, bringing the rest of the family. But if Labor's willing to do that anyways, what do you need the Greens? I dare say, if you look at like Western Sydney, I wonder what it was in the last election, but it always historically was a much higher Labor, Labor voting base in those communities. But time will tell. Maybe it just is all virtue signaling. So let's look at recent things in recent times. Have you been following the news at all?
Here and there, bits and pieces. I think what we'll do is, right, Avi, you give me a breakdown of some of the things that Australians or people around the world should be paying attention or should have been paying attention to the last couple of weeks, where I have maybe not been paying attention as well. So let's see. You can test me out on my knowledge.
I just want to say we've got 2,500 people watching at the moment. It's a shame we can't bring that up from all the different platforms, which is pretty cool. 2,497.
Because we're simulcast on multiple YouTubes, multiple X's, multiple Facebooks.
I haven't put any I haven't put comments up for a while. Damn. Sorry guys, I forgot about my job. I got caught up with my own opinion.
We can take this more chill, and you can look for comments and put up.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at comments.
Answer some questions.
Yeah. Guys, if you have any questions, chuck them in. If you're on X or Facebook or YouTube, we'll add it to the thing. All right, so we got Dave says monkeypox 2.0 is on the way next month, they reckon. There has been this push for monkeypox, but I dare say they're not gonna dare. Come on. Even the WHO yesterday announced that this is nothing like COVID.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
I mean, all the signals like feel like they want to, but like it's so ridiculous that, I mean, it's just the whole thing premise is just ridiculous, and the fact that it's kind of really being highlighted by some certain parts of the media in this fashion, that the WHO has had to come out and say, "Hey, we're not going to do the same thing this time." I mean, it's pretty hilarious. Look, I can't see how this correlates to the election season in the US all the time. When we're seeing these pandemics or these kind of things flare up around the world where people get scared, now it seems to be around the US election. A lot of us, when we come to 2024 or anytime a midterm or presidential election happens, I think we always have to be on the guard for something going down that we know might be a bit ridiculous, but it could happen anyway. But monkeypox, I don't know. I don't see it, but I'm happy to. Not happy to. I'm very glad to be proven wrong. Because the last thing we need is a monkeypox lockdown. I don't even know what that looks like.
Did you caught monkeypox, didn't you?
I'm pretty sure I'm immune.
Just want to say, I see there's one comment, but let us know if the sound's a technical side, guys. If it's not, if we've got to turn up the sound or something, or one of our sounds, let us know in the comments. But otherwise, questions. Here we go. We've got a question from Michael. How's your brother and your ex going, Avi? Well, I'll take this opportunity to plug my book, rebelfromthestart.com. You can read about it all. This is somebody who thinks they know anything about me, Rukshan, isn't it? Firstly, my brother's really good. There's a photo. Oh, I should bring the photo up. How do I bring it up? I was just in Israel with 16 of my siblings, and we're all super close these days. But this is somebody that's clearly read an article about me in Fairfax in the Age, the Sydney Morning Herald, that says I was once sued by my brother. I didn't tell you the end. Like, you're talking about 10 years ago. They're still caught up on it. I'm really close to that brother now. Manny Wax, we're actually quite close. He's a child sexual abuse campaigner. And then how's my ex going? Well, again, you can read the story in rebelfromthestart.com because you see
there it is in the background.
Oh, there
right
it is,
in the background. You see the book.
That's a book
And
you need to
as you
read.
guys
That if
can
you want to
notice,
know, if you want to know about
yeah,
my ex, because you're
anything.
so interested, then read the book.
But I was just gonna say, you got Avi's book in the background, you got Avi there, and you got a picture of him in the background as well. This guy is a narcissist and he's obsessed with himself. So just in case he forgets who he is, he's got a photo of himself
Bring a
next to the annual
widescreen,
report in the back.
Benji. There we go. So we see Avi. I just want to point out, if I have to, I'm going to bring up the messages when we were designing this. And this was all Rukshan's idea. And I just realized now that he designed it just for this moment so that he could give me crap. All right, let's keep looking at these comments. The feed constantly dropping out. Is it? Really? Is
That
anyone
could
else
be anything.
experiencing that, or is that Ron? Is that your cheap internet? Are you with Optus? Telstra?
Optus.
Optus? Who we throwing in? Let us know, guys, if there's something, if it's dropping out for you guys. It's important to know. All right. Avi is a bit quiet. Rukshan is okay. That's concerning. Hold on. Should I turn up my one? Guys, should I turn up my one? Let me know. Sound is great. No? All right. Somebody said I'm a bit quiet. That makes no sense. Rukshan is louder. Avi by a little bit, but still low. All right, let me
This is
turn
good. We can actually perfect the
Yeah,
levels.
I'll
Thanks
get it.
to your help.
Hold on, which one's mine? Oh, mine. Oh, yeah, here's mine. Is that better? Is that better, guys? Let me know. I've turned it up. Okay, what do we got? Avi has the same trying to look intelligent glasses. Alba, do you know what? I really didn't want to wear my glasses, but now that I'm in charge of technical support here because Rukshan quit on us, um, I have to be able to see the screen. And actually, when I work, I wear these magnifying glasses. It is not to try and make me look more intelligent. I know that I cannot convince anyone with these. Do I look smart? Are they?
Yeah, you kind of look smart.
Are you guys coming
While you're doing the comments, what some of the news that I have been following is I was actually you got a comment up there.
Yeah, are you guys coming to the Reset Victoria rally tomorrow in Bendigo? We need independent media to attend. Our farming land's been ruined. Environment. The weird thing is, Kelly, can you send me the details? Avi at rebelnews.com. If you can send it tonight, that'll be good. I heard something. There was an ad on the radio today on 3AW promoting some protest. I think it's the one you're talking about. And then it signed off on somebody's name that I've never heard. So I tried to look it up. I couldn't really see it. So if you guys, if Kelly, if you can send me that, Avi at rebelnews.com, I'll have a look at it and see if we can get there or at least cover it in some way. I just heard it in passing, and it's unacceptable that there's a protest in Melbourne without a permit from Rebel News. What do you reckon, Rukshan?
Yeah,
I haven't done protests in a while.
I haven't gone to a protest in a long time. The last one I went to was at the town hall. I think about six months ago, something like this, where the council was voting on something against Israel or something like this, and that's I was had a bit of a confrontation that day, and someone got in my face and assaulted me or whatever. And then since that time, I haven't stepped out to go to these protests and cover these things because it's just been. I think it's just gotten very toxic in some aspects in terms of individuals and how they view people's personal space perhaps, and how they can get into people's faces. And especially when you're covering issues, trying to be from my perspective anyway, just trying to show what happens and be a bit more give different perspectives to actually be in those situations. I think I stepped away from it after that a little bit because I noticed that the police weren't really interested in ensuring that for me as an independent journalist that I was safe in those environments. And I found that my dealings with the police since that time, and even on that day discussing these things, I found that they were not really interested in protecting the public from being in the public space, during a public vote of a council that should be accessible to everyone. I believe, in our country, in Australia, in our state, in our city, there is not, a mob rule type thing that should be happening. It should be free for everyone to enjoy and participate in the political process. There shouldn't be intimidation being used against individuals, especially at an event that's being held by the council that's representing the city of Melbourne. So after that, I was just like, nah, this is bit too hectic. I'm getting like these, threatening messages, threatening phone calls, all this kind of random stuff, and I'm just like, it's not worth trying to show some of this stuff. Sometimes there's plenty of people doing it, and I'm just putting myself out there in a way that's just going to end up, with me, bruised, or who knows what else would have happened. But I stepped away from it, and yeah, that's kind of why I haven't been at too many protests recently, because it just got a bit too much in terms of my safety in the background. And I work by myself. I don't have security like you, Avi. I don't have Daniel following me around. This is a passion thing for me, so I'm not going to be, crowdfunding for security, for instance, and doing all this kind of stuff. I go out there by myself, and I'm amongst the people, and
I feel like you're having
unfortunately,
a
it's not
having
safe.
a dig at me. Do you want
I
me
well,
to?
I mean,
Do you want me to lend you Daniel?
no, I like the actual aspect of not being in that space, where I can just kind of blend in and go around and talk to people and hear different stories and stuff like this.
The guy that
When you
attacked you is
can't do,
actually locked up at the moment. He got locked up. It's Mohammed Sharab. It was the same guy who attacked me.
yeah, so there's been multiple issues after that particular incident involving myself, and I think even the opposition got the federal police involved around some matter in terms of some comments that were said by this individual. But I was actually attacked in front of the police
I
that day,
remember.
and I told the police, and I showed the police. I went to the police. I showed them all this stuff, and I, said all these things, and these guys don't care. They're afraid to do their jobs half the time, and it shouldn't be that way. And I'm not against people protesting. I actually think it's great that we have this country where people can go out there and voice their opinions. And there's been endless protests in Victoria. I think we're the protest capital of the world, and especially during the time of lockdown, it really shaped my views around the importance of protesting and people being out there and being able to gather and do those things. So I don't want to see those type of things stopping in that sense, but definitely there has to be protection of the public by the police, and respect for the public as well from people who are protesting. Because at the end of the day, we're a multicultural society. I know that sounds cliche, but there's lots of different people here from all around the world who have been through lots of different things, and we all have different views and different experiences, and we see the world in a different way. And somehow we got to all coexist and live together in this country that we call Australia, and especially these things that allow us to do that is the fact that we have law enforcement, we have certain ideals and certain values that should be upheld at all times. We can't descend into the types of places that a lot of us left behind to come to countries like Australia. A lot of our parents left behind that kind of nonsense. You go to Sri Lanka, the elections are coming up in Sri Lanka in the next couple of weeks, and that crap could go down pretty bad. In terms of how people act with each other, and there might be public issues in the streets, and people might get assaulted, and there might be issues between police and protesters, and people being arrested. Those are the things
Someone's
that
asking if you're going to cover it.
in the Sri Lankan election.
Yeah.
No, I
Oh.
no, I don't know much about the Sri Lankan election. Like, since I've
Is it
grown up
like all
here,
your
and I
is it like all your different cousins that are basically
no,
up against each other?
nah, man. It's like, I don't know. I think it's like these kind of families that these dynasties that have been in some way or another involved in the Sri Lankan political landscape, like the Bushes, like the Clintons, like the Obamas. They've just been going back generations, and their kids are involved, and their other family members are involved. So yeah, you're kind of right, but it's not the everyday Sri Lankan family like the families that I come from. But my dad is very kind of interested in the politics there, so he's following along and always listening to all the arguments and things like this. But as me, as an Australian that has grown up here, I think to comment on Sri Lankan politics when I'm not whatsoever involved, or any aspect of my life is not impacted by what happens in Sri Lankan politics, I find it a little bit not offensive to other Sri Lankans maybe in Sri Lanka that are going through some of these issues, but it's like me sitting in my ivory tower and commenting about things there when I'm not doing anything to help or contribute to the progress in that country. The only countries I kind of talk about politics very openly is around the West. I feel like we're interconnected, whether it's the US or the UK. A lot of the flow and effects of policies in the West tend to impact Australia as well, and that's why you'll see me discussing US politics very heavily. But when it comes to Sri Lankan politics, like, it's not going to affect the average Australian. What happens in Sri Lanka, it is just a curiosity because of my heritage that I might even know about what's happening there right now. So, but I don't think it's a major thing that I'm going to inform people about in Australia, because I don't really think there's too much interest unless something crazy happens, and then that's not the type of thing that you want to rock up to Sri Lanka as an independent journalist to cover without the protection of some type
Do
of
you want Daniel?
family or security. I don't think Daniel will be able to help me when they take me to the gulag
He'll
in Sri
blend
Lanka.
right
Man.
in.
Nah, the police will beat both of us up, and they'll hang us by our legs and just hit us with sticks.
Is it like India where they hit you with sticks?
Probably, man. Definitely. Like, they'll get you.
I gotta say, I have a few Sri Lankan neighbours, and I've cozied up to them for their Sri Lankan chicken, which your wife
Yes.
introduced me to, but now my wife does better than your wife.
No comment.
You're too scared to admit it.
It's great that your wife has taken up making Sri Lankan chicken curry. It's a really good thing to know. I think Sri Lankan food is a fusion
Yum.
style food. So
Sri
it's
Lankan
like
chicken
maybe
is one of my favourite dishes now.
yeah, it's kind of like Thai food, maybe. Like, it's like fusion.
Nothing
so
like
it's
Thai. What are
very...
you talking about?
No, I'm saying like a fusion of different
Ah.
styles of cooking. So because you got a lot of that influence of being an island in Sri Lanka, a lot of
It's like peppery and spicy. It's so...
different influences from the Portuguese, from the Dutch, from the British. So our colonial history really comes through in some of the cooking as well.
Are
so
you proud about your
really
colonial history?
I think that's shaped Sri Lanka, whether it's good or bad. I think whatever's happening in Sri Lanka right now, we can't blame the history of colonialism for. We've had a long time to get our crap together in that country, and unfortunately, there are people that say maybe perhaps if the colonialists hung around a little bit more, Sri Lanka would have ended up a bit more like Singapore, perhaps. In terms of development, because there was a very high rate of development happening for a long time in that country. So from railroads to infrastructure.
What year did what year is the independent?
I think in the 50s, 1950s,
so
or
around
something like this.
Same as like, I think Pakistan
India,
was 47. India, Pakistan.
Yeah, maybe the 40s. Yeah, similar time to that whole time period when the British Empire kind of fell apart after World War II.
Okay, we've got a question here. What do you think about Andrew Tate getting arrested again? What do you think? Did you see that?
I saw bits and pieces of it. That is something that's obviously playing out in this, very interesting way, because typically for something like this, you wouldn't have this presence of a, massive influencer social media presence. I mean, he's on social media all the time. So you're kind of in this world with him since that time of the first arrest, for instance, when he was gaining his prominence from all that stuff. And people have been following along on this story. So a lot of people have mixed views and mixed opinions about Andrew Tate. So when you're seeing him getting arrested again, a lot of people will say, well, he's being targeted. Other people I've noticed, depending on, how they view this whole saga, are happy that he's been arrested and think that he should face consequences for whatever he's being accused of now. Me personally, I don't, pay too much attention to that case. I think that case is only a massive case because of who he is. There's much bigger and worse things happening in the world that we don't hear about sometimes, but because of it's Andrew Tate, it's very much in our faces, and we have to hear about it and discuss it and talk about it. But I don't particularly think that's the most important thing in the world right now. But definitely, there are aspects there which are questionable from both perspectives in terms of how the case is being handled, and also from some of the things that Andrew Tate has obviously been involved in, which a lot of people tend to overlook for whatever reason. He's openly discussed these things and openly talked about these things. So, some people seem to just, not pay attention to any of that whatsoever. So he's a very interesting individual. And, I've been following him recently. He's dabbling into the crypto space, and he's kind of become the daddy of that space and taken over in terms of his influence for a short period of time there. So he kind of gets his fingers into everything. And then you have this sideshow that's happening in Romania, where he's, living this almost, it's like the Truman Show. You're seeing this guy living his life in his little fortress or whatever. He's got their little area with his brother and his mates, and they all hang out together. And then you have the law enforcement after him. You have people in the UK after him, and it's like a reality TV show. Every day. It's just intense.
I find it funny when people just like the people are just like, oh, no, as soon as he's arrested, it can't be true. Like, there's a guy at Milk Bar TV, an Aussie guy. He does really good work, actually. In fact, his collation of the videos of the timeline of the Trump shooting became like the most used piece of journalism. Like the actual, like he just grabbed all the different clips from all the different angles and essentially just did a syncing of the sound, and then ran and had a time on it so you could see how long between the shooting and the police actually getting there and looking and people complaining. Like, incredible work. But that guy's also done like a heap on Andrew Tate. Milk Bar TV, is it? I think. Is it?
Milk Bar TV.
Yeah. And it's just funny because, well, it's not funny, and it will play out in the courts. What's funny to me in that whole saga is the people that just jump up to defend him 100%. He's innocent. When for years he's been like the charges are pretty serious. You're talking about child sexual abuse, like sex with minors, trafficking minors. Like, it's crazy stuff. And if it turns out like to be true, like, why would you just go out of your thing to defend a guy, especially somebody who's just gone, who for years, and Milk Bar TV's shown us like heaps of clips where he's essentially admitted to the type of crimes he's being charged. I don't know how it's going to play out in the court. I just wouldn't jump up and say he's innocent, and especially when somebody like that who's acting like they're only getting him. All the anti-Israel campaigners, they're like, oh, 2 days ago he blamed the Jews for running the Matrix or whatever, and now 2 days later the Jews got him. It's like, really? You think the most powerful people in the world care what he said on a lunatic podcast or Spaces with another lunatic? Like, there's so many bigger fish in the sea, and they ain't getting charged with, child sexual abuse, pedophilia. Andrew Tate is. And it's the same Andrew Tate who, for a few years now, has done video after video. And if you don't know it, like, go look at Milk Bar TV. It's like Andrew Tate's own words. Does it mean he's going to be found guilty? I'm not, just like I'm saying, don't jump to the conclusions. Let it play out in the courts. But I certainly wouldn't jump to his defense in it. And people like somebody, what's this one? Somebody's just written, free Tate, the Chinese set him up. I just don't even get why the Chinese would be setting Tate up. But I think Andrew Tate set himself up over the last few years. If he was just aerating that whole time, talking, nonsense, try not to swear. I was told to behave by Rukshan at the beginning. But if he started this, then if he did that, he did it to himself. Like, if he was lying in all those videos where he talks about, boasts about essentially, almost forcing. Watch the videos yourself, come to your own conclusion. But let's just say it ain't someone I would let babysit my daughter. Okay?
Yeah. I mean, look, again, me personally, I just don't care. I just don't care about like him or whatever's happening around that. In that way, I think there's much bigger things happening. But of course, he's a very influential individual, and he's actually a very good, speaker.
Great communicator.
If you listen to him talking about different subjects, and you forget about anything else that he's done or said, on those subjects, he comes across as someone who's very knowledgeable. He's got his own take on it, and it is kind of eye-opening if you maybe aren't exposed to some of those ideas to begin with. I think that's why a lot of people think of him in this way, because if you're not exposed to some of those ideas, which are widely discussed in some circles, he kind of takes those ideas and puts it into a perspective that people who aren't really paying attention perhaps to the intellectual conversations around those ideas might understand it in a way that's more like, hey, it's us against the system, it's us against I have some of those same views, for instance, about governments and not but I wouldn't call it the Matrix, for instance, but I have those same feelings and views about what's happening to us and how these things are playing out. But he does it in this fashion where he's managed to call it the Matrix, and then you have all these people who should know better who are going around saying, "Hey, it's the Matrix after him." And
Yeah.
it's not the Matrix. We can maybe call it, like, maybe say the deep state or these kind of things. Right now, we've devolved into saying, "Hey, it's the Matrix. There's a Matrix out there." Like, he's made that fashionable, and to do that, you have to be a great communicator. So whatever he's done or whatever he said in terms of his communication when he's being interviewed by Piers Morgan or Candace or whoever it is, he speaks really easy to understand way, and I think that's why people maybe a bit
But
sympathetic
it's
towards him.
wild to me because he pushes this idea of critical thinking, but then you find that the people that get attached to kind of his cult don't have a critical thought, or at least not when it comes to anything he says. And he does, like, there are things that he says that are true, and I think a lot of it, when in the beginning, when it was about men's rights and the way that the systems stacked up against men, and I lived through that myself, so I know some of those issues to be true. I wasn't so keen on some of his solutions, but then later on, like, it's just lately, it's over the last, I think since the first time he got arrested or whatever, it was just like there's never taking any responsibility for your own actions and your own behaviors and what led to things. It's like always, it's the system, zero proof. When you talk about, every time he's arrested, he says, "Oh, there's zero evidence," and then you look at, some of the court documents that are published by people, and it's like, oh, well, they do kind of have evidence. What evidence do you have? It's the Matrix that did that to you. You know what I mean? But I think at the end of the day, it'll all come out in court. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out, and how, how people react to it. Something that's taken the headlines, especially, we just had the Olympics. I don't know if you watched much of the Olympics. What did you
I
think
did
about the?
actually.
Oh, did you? Did you watch the opening?
Yeah, I love, since I was a kid, I love the Olympics. So I think since Atlanta, maybe that's what
Because
I
I
remember
found
from primary
something
school. So it
interesting
was
out about you
good.
recently.
Yeah.
You were the captain of everything in Dandenong High, weren't you?
I would actually put my hand up to be whatever, because Dandenong High School is a school where, maybe if you know Dandenong, the suburb, and the kids that go to this kind of school, no one really wants to participate in these type of activities. So whether it's swimming captain or athletics captain, I would
You
put
were
my hand
swimming
up.
captain. You were swimming captain,
Yes, I was
but
swimming
you
captain for
can't
like
swim.
2 years. No, I didn't swim at all. I didn't compete in the swimming because I can't swim.
But you
Being
were
a
the
Sri
swimming
Lankan child.
captain. You
Yes,
so you are essentially the ray gun of Dandenong.
I know all about what Raygun's going through right now because I've been Raygun for a long time when it comes to swimming.
It is incredible. So, ray gun. Did you watch her amazing work? So you sent me this. I haven't actually watched it, so we'll watch it together.
No,
But
this is we'll watch this after. That's the AI one. Look, Raygun. I'm actually. I saw that popping up on these like US accounts, right? I was like, why is some Australian breakdancers popping up on X on these like massive US political accounts, and it's like millions of views, and it's just like Aussie girl, supposedly breakdancing. And I watched that and I thought, what is going on here? And I really got invested in. Well, there we go. I got
uh,
invested in the whole thing, and I'm actually a dancer as well. So beyond swimming, I actually do a bit of dancing, somewhat break dancing, more popping and locking. So I've experience competing and doing this type
we
of
saw
thing
your
and
little
dancing.
dance. That's right. You chucked your dance on X.
Yeah,
As you'd
that
have it.
was just for fun. But I have a bit of history in this space, and I would not consider myself being elite enough to go to the Olympics, especially for the first time they hold break dancing and go and do whatever on earth it is that
There
she
is
did.
something
Like
sus about that story.
this
It
kangaroo thing.
it,
Yeah, like
it,
it's
it
just like,
makes
what is
zero
that?
sense. You like,
I
I've seen breakdancers
honestly think it's
on
embarrassing.
Chapel Street that are in St Kilda on the street busking that are better than her.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't want to diss people, and I don't want to say like, it might be art or whatever, and she might be a great performer or whatever, and some people might artistically think it's great. But in terms of competitive sports for the Olympics, because the Olympics are about people turning up as the top representatives of their country for the this highest honor of representing your country in the hardest sports, the 100-meter race, the 200 meters, freestyle final, whatever it is. And then you have, this breakdancing competition that's meant to showcase the best breakdancers from a country. And whatever she did, the interpretive stuff, or doing the Australian flag and then doing the kangaroo hops and rolling around on the floor, that wasn't breakdancing. That was embarrassing. And I think what's even more embarrassing is the people that defended whatever that was, because we should be able to criticize when elite sports people, turn up not to be elite and turn up, wasting someone else's opportunity to represent us. Because you saw those, I don't know if you've seen those BMX bikers and stuff. That's a fairly new sport, BMX biking, skateboarding at the Olympics. They're going on there. They're like representing Australia, and they're doing fantastic stuff, competing against the rest of the world, and they're winning. And we're sending, to the breakdancing thing, someone that looks like they're not really taking it seriously. And I know it's something not to waste so much of our time getting caught up on it, but it is kind of embarrassing that people were defending her, like, oh well, she had a go. She had
it
a
was
go
misogyny.
as an Aussie.
They blamed misogyny for the reason why. Like, what did it have to do with her sex that she sucked at it? And you know what? Was, like afterwards, I just scrolled her because I thought surely she's not that bad. Maybe it was just like her artistic, plan that went to shit when she performed. But I scrolled her whole Instagram and I could not find one video where she looks like she break dances like that every time. There's, it's just low skill. She's not very skilled. That's it.
Yeah, and they're removing that video now, right? From
everywhere. That's why you have to have AI. Let's watch this AI one then. Is it? Do you know what the sound is? Is it something copyright or is it?
I don't think it's copyright. Is it? No, it's not. It's just AI stuff.
What's
Raygun?
Oh, Raygun. I love
what is going on?
The thing is that
the AI is actually doing a pretty good job.
Way better. The AI.
That's a gold medal performance right there.
The AI would have got more than 0. Oh. But there's a thing now that she's going to make millions off it. That's the crazy part of that story.
I mean, we kind of live in a society where we reward this kind of mediocrity, right? We reward people that, do something stupid and embarrassing, embarrass the country, embarrass themselves. They're rewarded and looked as people who are inspiring, which is just sad. And I'm not saying, look, again, she might have had an off day. She might have just, like you said, her plans didn't go to plan, whatever. Maybe she was really great at the qualifying rounds, and then she didn't, practice until the Olympics. She took it for granted. Who knows? And it was just a free trip, fun trip for her to go to the Olympics to Paris and be a part of this. But at the end of the day, it's an elite competition. Whatever you want to say about breakdancing, and that was not.
We're being corrected here. It's Dr. Raygun, and that's true. It is Dr. Raygun, and it is her. Her professional life is just as funny as her breakdancing. She is just like, she's not a serious person. Like that's just where I landed with her when you look at.
Look, man, I was saying, if I knew that I could get a PhD in breakdancing, I wouldn't have gone to law school. Let's just leave it at that. Like, if I knew that I could have just, done whatever she did and then written some, crap about how breakdancing is breaking down barriers for, Sri Lankans and, integrating us into this country or something like this and making us feel better. If I could do that and get a PhD thesis done and get, become a Dr. Rukshan Fernando, I would have done that. I grinded away in the wrong thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild. There's a lot of people saying in the comments and that there's a narrative that her look. I certainly think it was something dodgy, in the way that she got up, because she is not the best we have. I've seen better, like I said, on the streets of St. Kilda. So how she got there needs to come under investigation, and we need to get to the bottom of it to ensure it doesn't happen again for the next sport or whatever that comes up.
They've cancelled the breakdancing, right? There's no more.
Yeah, there's not going to be breakdancing. But also, we the taxpayers funded that, and it was an international embarrassment just so that she can have her. It's not even going to be 5 minutes of fame. They're saying that she's going to make millions now because she's become kind of this. It was such a joke that she's going to become a celebrity off the back of it, and that's off the back of our brand. The fact that Australia, I think we got the most medals ever, and that's what we're talking about is Raygun. But her husband was her coach. but I don't. He wasn't one of the judges that got her in. That was the thing that people don't.
Okay.
And they're
I've
not.
seen a video of him
I saw.
breakdancing as well, and he's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same.
But also they're saying that he was that they founded that organization. I don't think they founded it either, but
Okay.
they certainly had some sway because there's no way they're the best we have. Now I got a comment here from Johanna Zaran. She's got a kafia on. I don't know if she's Palestinian or something, but whatever. Israel has murdered over 600 Palestinians in the occupied West Bank since October 7, where there is no Hamas. Learn about what's really going on. I like when people come and tell me to learn about what's really going on. Like that in itself means, listen, I've been to the West Bank. I don't know who you are. Maybe you are Palestinian, but I've probably been to the West Bank more than you have. And to say there's no Hamas in the West Bank, one is factually incorrect. There are certain neighborhoods that are controlled effectively by Hamas. But the official government of the West Bank, yes, is Fatah, which is the Palestinian Authority, not Hamas. They have I guess, a better relationship with Israel. At least they do work with their neighbors. That's why it is not, you can go in and out. But to say that there's no Hamas in the West Bank, I can't even start a conversation from that position because it is just factually incorrect. So learn about what's really going on and then come back onto the comments and we can have a proper conversation. I'm open to talk about anything and everything with anyone that wants to do it in good faith. Even somebody that wants to disagree with my positions on Israel. But if you're going to turn around and blame everything on the Jews, blame everything on Israel and actually not bring any facts and just, I can't argue with just fallacy because there's no point. You'll win the argument every time because you can just make up any fact. That's what Rukshan does to me every day. Don't worry about it. I've learned how to deal with your type.
Look, I mean, people look at your views and, perhaps some people look at you as a controversial figure when it comes to this topic. And I certainly get my fair share of comments from people saying that
you got attacked for my views. You got hit on the streets.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, so I know, I get like, your views are not shared by everyone. Like, people will look at you and be like, well, he has a bias. He's got a certain bias that, when you listen to what he's saying, it's coming from, supporting that particular bias. And it might be interesting, Avi, to get someone on this opposition podcast that, doesn't share your views when it comes to that. And, maybe like someone that shares views that Joanna has.
Joanna, we'll welcome Joanna on. Now, look, I actually put the call out.
I think it'll be good because for me, really, I've as an Australian, especially over the last, this has been going on for a long time now. I think some people may have disengaged somewhat from what's happening. Some people maybe, I don't want to be crass, but maybe over it in the sense of they don't want to hear about these things. And there is a bit of this creeping in as well. And I think there's still a lot more, fractions happening within society over this issue, even though people want to avoid this issue. I don't think it's something that we can avoid, unfortunately. So to progress this conversation, definitely there would be people that would be interested in coming on here and sharing a perspective that might challenge some of the views that you have, and that could make for an interesting conversation. Is my view, because again, I'm somewhat of a neutral observer in being an Australian, being someone that's from more of a background that has a bit of history around civil conflict, where two ethnic groups had a disagreement over land and territory, and we had a 25-year-old very bloody civil war in Sri Lanka, which the wounds, if you're asking certain groups in that country, haven't necessarily healed. So, and you had a couple of 100,000 people dying during that period. So there's a lot of issues that come from that outsiders wouldn't necessarily understand in the same manner that your views about Israel or someone's views about what's happening in Gaza might not be understood. But you having a discussion with someone that have those views might make for interesting viewing in this format.
I think we should put the call out, because we've discussed it in the past. We got to find somebody that's willing to engage, like I said, in good faith. I'm more than happy to have an open, an honest conversation. So I guess just email either myself or Rukshan Avi at rebelnews.com. What's your email if they need If they're scared to talk to me directly, Rukshan will be Switzerland.
realrukshan@gmail.com.
All right, guys. He's married, and as somebody commented before, we were in a relationship before, so this is strictly if you're interested in potentially coming on and disagreeing, and we do it live. So
Yeah, and look, I'm happy to be the neutral, moderator, try to moderate the conversation as well. I think it'll be quite interesting because again, it's it's good for people to talk about these things.
I don't know if what
And
Jane is saying, what happened in Palestine will happen here. I think I know what she means. I think she's talking about October 7, but maybe I'm reading that wrong. And if she is, I agree. Especially if we keep importing, it's going to happen here if we don't get smart before it's too late. I think we're coming up to the end. This was our what did we call it? A soft relaunch. Was there anything else you wanted to quickly touch on before you log off and walk 5 meters to your bedroom and go to sleep?
no, I can't think of anything else to touch on. Are you telling me there's been no other news and no other interesting stuff happening?
Oh,
The US elections
there's
the US
heaps.
elections are coming up.
There's heaps going on, but I feel like we're about to hit out. We've hit our over an hour already. We've got the US elections. I've got exciting stuff I don't want to tell anyone about yet. I understand that we may have been having technical issues on X. Apparently, it was freezing a bit, but maybe I don't know.
I think that's X.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that was broad. Let us know in the comments if X was causing problems for everyone. There was certainly a lot of viewers on this though, across the board. I think we got about 4,500 almost we reached at peak. So it's done pretty well, but I'm pretty happy with the first one. Maybe next time come a little bit more prepared, Rukshan.
Prepared in what way?
With him ready to actually talk about issues instead of yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna prepare. But we'll have a guest next time. You reckon next week?
Yeah, I think we'll have a guest. We can have a guest. By the sound of it, you might have a few proposals for extra guests, and we've got Benji here, which we could one day mic up, just because we just want to live on the edge.
We'll start on the mic. We'll progress to a camera at a later stage. We'll start with the mic.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. X was buffering, still is. YouTube doesn't show you live. Oh, wow. Oh, so how are we getting comments through some YouTube? There have been some technical issues tonight, but hopefully we can get over those. Rami, it was great to have you on board. Maybe we should have Rami on time. Nah.
Yeah, let's get Rami on.
Just get Rami on. Rami, can you wear a keffiyeh and then just argue with us? But guys, till next week, we are officially back. And if you want to catch up on the old episodes or any episodes from here on in, the opposition.show. And you can follow us. Probably the best at the moment is on our X pages, which are listed right below us at the moment, Ozraeli and The Real Rukshan. But until next week, have a good night.
See you guys. Take care.